Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Grind. Jimmy, what's happening, buddy?
What's up, Trey? How are you?
I survived Austin.
Yeah, yeah,
Nick Saban almost didn't survive Austin, but I
yeah.
survived. So
I think that was that's the shock of the weekend, I think, is
that's,
that game.
I
And that's
mean,
saying something
that's
considering the
saying, yeah,
weekend that went on. So yeah, I think that's the shock of the weekend.
absolutely. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, and I guess let's start with that. College football week 2, what a week it was. I mean, I was there in Austin, uh, screaming my head off. I'm sure it came across on TV, but I mean, that was the loudest. I've been to a lot of Longhorn games. Definitely the loudest it had ever been. And there had been a handful of games where it was really loud, but like LSU a couple years ago was loud. But that was by far the loud. That place when that Burt Auburn kid made that kick, it went to
Oh,
TV timeout. That place was going bonkers the entire TV timeout. Nick Saban couldn't even communicate to his team because everybody was screaming the entire TV timeout after he made that kick. So it was a great atmosphere. I'll let you go. Give me your takes on the game, and then I'll say what I had to say about it. But it was a heck of a game. 2019 Alabama wins by a point.
I think Texas's defense is pretty stinking good, Trey.
Yeah.
Pretty stinking good. We said after the first game we thought they flew to the ball pretty well. Um, I'm gonna say I don't want to. I hate it when announcers go, well, it's not so much that, you know, this team won the game, it's that this team gave it to them. So I'm going to say that I don't feel like Alabama offensively is where they have been in the last couple years.
Agreed.
But I also don't know with the way Texas's defense is playing. I don't know if the score would have been that much different with those other guys. Bama fans be like, oh, well, if we had that receiving core from last year, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, Texas's defense looks to be maybe an elite defense in college football. Um, I think I don't have to tell you or anyone inside the Austin area code that was intentional grounding. I don't know what school refereeing those guys went to. That's intentional grounding. I don't care how many ways you look at it. It's intentional grounding or it's a fumble
Even
recovered
if
for six.
even if you don't think it's intentional grounding, his shin was down. I've seen pictures that
Shin
his
was
shin
down,
was down,
entire
and
forearm.
then I've seen that his forearm was down before he released it. So even if you say, well, because Nick Saban said he hit a defender, so that negates, and he did when he threw it. He hit it. It hit a defender, so that negates intentional grounding because you can say it was tips
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. But okay, but his shin was down, his
Mm-hmm.
forearm was down. I mean, any way you look at it, it was a safety. It was
Safety.
one of the worst call debacles I'd ever seen. They called roughing the passer with targeting, which is a call that it turns out doesn't exist. There is no such thing as roughing the passer with targeting. It's two separate instances. It's either roughing the passer or it's targeting. Targeting is reviewable, so they can take it away.
Mm-hmm.
Roughing the passer is not reviewable. It's subjective. Roughing the passer is what Dallas Turner did to Quinn Ewers that knocked him out of the game. That wasn't reviewable. It's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Targeting is a rule with the head, force with the head and neck. So that it was just a debacle. We Texas got the short end of the stick on that one. But something that I was shocked, Jimmy, I would have never thought in a million years. Uh, Watching that game afterwards, I would have said Texas defensive line dominated Alabama's offensive line.
Yes.
Texas's offensive line held their own with Alabama's defensive line. Texas couldn't. It was hard to run the ball, but as far as sacks goes, they ended up having 3 sacks. But Will Anderson, he got a sack the last defensive play of the game that almost knocked us out of field goal range. But I mean, he was neutralized. Dallas Turner, the only play he made the entire game was when he knocked Quinn Ewers out. But other than that, I mean, the Texas offensive line held their own with Alabama, and the D line dominated Alabama's offensive line. Never thought I'd say that. You take away that long run in the first quarter, the 81-yard run. Other than that run, Alabama averaged 2.4 yards a carry.
I think it goes back, it just drives my point home. I think Texas has one of the elite defenses in all of college football. And, Texas has been not where it's Texas, right? They're supposed to be one of
Yeah.
the best teams in college football. They haven't been that way. And and then everyone loves to hop on y'all because of Ellinger. We're back and not back. But I tell you
If you're gonna
what,
say that, you got to follow it up. They didn't follow it up, so
yeah, you can't do that. And I guarantee you he'd take that back if
yeah.
he could go back and do it. But Texas's defense impressed me. Alabama did not look good. And like I said, I don't want to take anything away from Texas's defense, but Alabama, I'm like, man, y'all do not look good. And Texas's defense was able, like I said, I think they're elite. I think they have the chance. We'll get to see now. It's an emotional game.
Yeah.
We'll get to see how the rest of the season goes. But I tell you, I think Texas has the pieces on defense to be really good.
And you told me that after week 1, and I'm like, I mean, it was Louisiana Monroe. I was kind of like, I need to see a little bit more, but you told me that. And my brother Casey went to the game with me after. He's like, Jimmy tried to tell you, because afterwards I was just raving about our defense. I was raving about our defense, and I was raving about the cojones on Bert Auburn to make that 49-yard field goal. I couldn't believe it. I sat there. I'm drenched in sweat. And I tell him, like, Casey, I knew we weren't supposed to win, but golly, I want this one. I want it bad. Can somehow this kid just make this kick? Totally forgetting, oh, by the way, he is making the kick, but a minute and a half to go with the best player in college football, And then I kind of realized, I'm like, oh, crap, there's a minute and a half left. This is not going to end well for Texas, and it didn't. But
I ran into your folks at a restaurant here, and
yeah,
they were sitting, and I said hi to him and talking to your dad, and he goes, okay, here he goes. He goes, this is his chance to become a Texas legend. He makes this kick, goes through, and he said, there it is, and I was just like, I loved the game. The game was exciting. And
it really was.
I said,
Great
now,
college
I said, there's
football
there's over a minute left. And he goes, yeah, I know, we got to do something. And the sack, I thought they had him dead to rights. The restaurant,
Oh my goodness!
whole section went wild,
Yeah.
absolutely wild. And then Bryce Young rolled out, and they kind of went, like it, because they went like, there's no way, right? There's no way he was dead. There was no way.
What a play!
And, yeah, exactly. What a play! And there's your Heisman Trophy winning quarterback making the.
That's basically the noise. That's basically the noise the stadium made.
Yeah,
everybody kind of saw him. They're like, and then what a game! What an atmosphere!
I think game of the week. I think game of the weekend.
Yeah, and I came. It was one of those. So I was at the Texas LSU game in 2019, and Texas played under the wire, played within a touchdown. But I came away that game thinking I was more impressed with LSU. I was like, holy cow, LSU's gonna win the national championship this year. Joe Burrow is elite. I did not realize they were that good. Watching that game, Texas Alabama, I came away more impressed with Texas than I did Alabama. I felt like Texas outplayed them. Like you said, Alabama's offense is not impressive at all. Bryce Young is special. He's best player in college football. Other than that, their offensive line, not that great. Receivers did not come up clutch. Jamar Gibbs, the running back, he's good, but Texas D-line shut him down running the ball. But he was their leading receiver out of the backfield. And then again, Alabama's defense is pretty good. I just think Texas has some skill players, and they were able to do something. I was there in 2010 at the Rose Bowl. I would love for Texas to play Alabama one time with their starting quarterback making it the whole way through. I'm not going to be the guy because you don't know the outcome. I'm not going to be that guy, but I am going to say that, one time I would love to play them where the starting quarterback plays the whole game, So that was a big game. And then, we might have to rag on the Aggies a little bit because we watched that game, and it's not that they lost. I mean, upsets happen.
Sure.
But they kind of got dominated by Appalachian State. They only ran 38 plays. Their defense couldn't stop them in the second half. The sustained drives that Appalachian State had, and A&M's offense is just, I mean, it's outdated. I mean, it has no rhythm. It's not up tempo. I've always thought this. I don't understand how any receiver wants to go play for Jimbo Fisher. He has 0 receivers in the league, and he hadn't put one in the league in a long time. I understand running backs and linemen and maybe even some quarterbacks. But his offense is not conducive to explosive plays from wide receivers. And they got this 5-star kid, Evan Stewart. Of course, he ended up fumbling, but I think he had 5 catches, but he has no big yards. Jimbo Fisher, I mean, he's got all this stuff. He's like that guy that tries to tell you how complicated his offense is just so it makes him sound like he's smart or something. But my eyes tell me if it's that complicated, it's a terrible offense. It's outdated. You got no rhythm. You got to have a perfect performance from your quarterback. Hayes King is far from perfect. I think they're making a change to Max Johnson. I don't know. I saw him play at LSU last year. How is that going to be any different?
That's
what the same stuff. And they're like, well, Jimbo needs to have a new play caller. It's Jimbo's offense. No one knows it better than him. You don't need a new play caller. You need a new offense. They got Miami this week. After watching what I watched last week, A&M, they might, I don't know. We'll see how this week goes. They can definitely turn it around. They're actually favored by 5.5. But if they don't turn it around this week, that thing in the world of transfer portal and all those kids, that thing can turn south in a hurry. This is probably the game of the season for A&M this week.
It's no secret you and I aren't big fans of the Aggies. I will say Appalachian State is not this. It wasn't Sam Houston State, right? They're not an
right. They're good,
school.
And they play hard. They're well coached, and they play hard.
Yes.
That's always
they've
dangerous.
been good since basically before they beat Michigan, but that's when they really burst onto the major college football scene. So yes, it was a good team. It wasn't like it was, an FCS school.
Right.
But something I've said, a couple things. I said, one, Jimbo Fisher is not this quarterback guru. He gets Jameis Winston. Yeah. Why? Because Mac Brown and the University of Texas would not return a phone call. That Jameis Winston said that himself. The only reason I went was because Texas wouldn't return my phone calls. That's it. Other than that, who else has he developed that's been really big?
He hasn't.
Same thing.
He had EJ Manuel, I think, got drafted in the first round, but he was a bust.
Yeah.
Christian Ponder, I think was high, but he was kind of a bust. So the only quarterback he has that's maintained success in the league has been Jameis Winston.
And that was a Texas gift. Same thing with Les Miles. Oh, he won a national championship with Nick Saban's kids. Other than that, he wasn't real good unless it was a transfer quarterback. I don't know why A&M can't get a quarterback. I've said they remind me of the Washington Redskins, or the Redskins remind me of them, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm like, they're like a quarterback away from really, I think, doing something, but they can't get a quarterback. Like, you think you can just plug in somebody. They can't do it. I don't know.
Again, if a quarterback runs that offense, I mean, I've watched that offense. It's just not explosive. Nick Calzada basically had the perfect game in that system last year against Alabama, and he was not a good quarterback by any means, but he was on that night, and it works. That offense definitely worked that night. But that was one time.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, look at it. It's just they're not explosive at all. And
that number one,
they don't have the running game. Like when they were really good when they had Kellen Mond, it was because of the Spiller kid was running all over the place. If they can't run the football like that, I mean, they're just not explosive. When I watch their offense, it's not explosive.
Right. And this number one best recruiting class that's ever put on a pair of cleats, if they continue down this road, they will not be able to. I still don't think, regardless, I don't think they'll be able to keep that recruiting class together. With the era of the transfer portal, I do not believe that entire recruiting class stay together as it is, just with natural, the progression of things. They start losing games they shouldn't. That class is going to get tired because they didn't sign up. They didn't come there and get promised the world to lose. They came there to win.
Right. That's why I think this is the biggest game in the season for the Aggies, because things can go south if they lose 2 in a row, because their schedule is tough. They got Miami at home, but then they got Arkansas, Jerry's World, but then I think they're at Alabama, at South Carolina. Now they obviously will be favored against South Carolina. Still a road game. So, I mean, you talk about that. Miami, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, that ain't easy, So, and Alabama's going to have the revenge factor in Tuscaloosa. So, A&M, this is it's a big game for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, they need a bounce back game.
They're favored. I think Vegas is expecting them. But I think part of the deal, the media and maybe A&M kind of overhyped himself, but the media, I think, put too much expectations on this year's Texas A&M football team. Because, I mean, when I did my research in the summer, we do our research in the summer, I'm like, this is an 8-4 football team, and they were 8-4 last year. They're going to be basically the same. I know they're getting all these freshmen, but you can't rely. I don't know any team that relies heavily on a bunch of freshmen and are really good. I think on the class they send, those guys are going to be really good, but I mean, you got to give them some time. This is big boy college football. Not a lot of plug and play guys happen, especially on the defensive line where they sign the majority of their guys. I mean, I think 7 top 100 players on the D line. I mean, if you're relying on those guys, I mean, I think they're an 8-4 football team. So I think too many expectations where people are expecting too much from A&M this year. I mean, you have below average quarterback play. A-Chain, I'm a big fan of A-Chain, but they don't give him the ball enough out of the backfield.
That guy's a player. They need to get him the ball. That guy is good. That guy's good.
He's really good. Big fan.
A&M's biggest problem, they've been the only one who has consistently, and I say consistently meaning every, I don't know, couple years, beaten Alabama in the SEC West.
Well, they've only beat them twice.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But
Johnny Manziel beat them in 2012, and
Johnny Manziel beat them.
They beat them 9 years apart. They beat them twice, 9 years apart. So
consistently is not.
Ole Miss has also beat them twice in that.
They beat, and that's their problem too. Look at the hype around Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and all this this and that. It's like if you beat Alabama, all of a sudden you're this just like amazing football team, and I'm like, no, you just catch Alabama on a bad day.
Yeah. I think only 3 teams in that span since A&M's been. I think only 3 teams have beaten Alabama from the West. I think
A&M
beat them twice, Ole Miss twice, Auburn. Well, maybe 4. Cause I think didn't LSU get them 1 year or no? No, LSU hadn't got them. I don't know.
It may have been before. It may have been before. Yeah.
But Ole Miss is only 3 teams have even got.
And look at the hype around Ole Miss and A&M. You beat Alabama, and all of a sudden you've got all this hype, and you're gonna take over the West, and then it doesn't happen. And so that's A&M's biggest problem is they've beaten Alabama. So
it does, and that's kind of goes to point with Texas. You play Alabama to the brink right there. You did that with LSU, and you went 8-4 that year, I think, or 7-5, and then you won a bowl 8-5. And that's been Texas' problem. They'll go to the brink, they'll beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and they'll come out and go 8-4. You know, and that's Texas. Alabama 2019 outplayed them. Probably should have won the game. How are you going to look against UTSA this week? How are you going to look against the Big 12 this year? So Texas has got to follow it up with what they did, and the same thing with A&M. You know, you get that class in, you got to start winning. I really thought next year was kind of going to be a better year for A&M, but we'll see. This is a big game for them. I'm going to throw 2 stats at you. I got 2 A&M stats for you, and this is crazy. So Jimbo Fisher just coached his 50th game. If I said, who do you think has a better record through 50 games at A&M, Kevin Sumlin or Jimbo Fisher? Would you believe me if I told you that Kevin Sumlin had a better record through his first 50 games?
Kevin Sumlin's probably the one that I would have guessed because he had Manziel, but that's about it.
But even Manziel's, I think they lost 2 games. Manziel's year he won the Heisman, and then the next year they lost 3 or 4 games. Kevin Sumlin was 36-14 through 50 games. Jimbo Fisher's 35-15 through 50 games. The difference is Jimbo Fisher makes guaranteed about $90 more million than someone got in his entire contract.
And that's what I can't get. You'd have thought they would have learned from Sumlin. I mean, of course, if it's about money, that school made so much money. They used to, the joke was, everyone with a Texas shirt, nobody who ever went to Texas, T-shirt fans and blah, blah. It's the same way with it. Look at since Johnny Manziel. It's the same way with A&M. Everybody.
I read something. Their enrollment went up. Went up like 10%.
100%. And that's what happens. Look at Alabama. Look at all the schools with success. It does. There's a direct correlation to it. But like you'd have thought they would have learned after signing Sumlin to that just ridiculous contract, and then you go out and pay another one to Jimbo Fisher, and I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that was just a bad contract. I understand if you thought Jimbo Fisher was your guy, but the contract is not good, and
No.
he is guaranteed all that money. So, if he doesn't, like if his offense doesn't get any better, I guess you're just stuck with Jimbo Fisher in that offense
There you
unless he
go.
adapts. The thing that makes Nick Saban so good is he is adapt. He said the reason the
Mm-hmm.
dinosaurs aren't here anymore because they didn't adapt. And look at Saban; he doesn't play the same way he played
Mm-mm.
10 years ago.
No, it used
Um,
to just line up and hit you in the mouth with a running back.
exactly.
Now he's spreading it all over, and he's brought in those guys, Bill O'Brien, Lane Kiffin. He brought in,
Steve
these
Sarkisian.
offensive Sarkeesian, Applewhite. He brings in these offensive guys because, like you said, you got to adapt. So A&M's got to do something. They're too talented on paper to have it not execute to the field. So
Yeah. Here's another crazy Texas A&M stat, and then we'll move on. Arkansas State has only beaten in their entire history has only beaten 3 Power 5 teams. Louisiana Lafayette has only beaten 4 Power 5 teams. Appalachian State has only beaten 5 Power 5 teams. You know what those three have in common? All three of them have beaten Texas A&M.
there you
I
go.
mean, they have lost the Group of 5 game, and that's just something you can't do. I think Arkansas State beat them in 2008. So, I mean, it was a little bit ago. Louisiana Lafayette, I think, was in 96, but Appalachian State. So, of those three teams, was that 12 combined Power 5 wins,
Mm-hmm.
but 3 of the 12 are against Texas A&M.
Against
So,
A&M.
if I'm A&M, I'd never schedule a Group of 5
Nope.
game ever. I know
Don't
you
do
win
it.
most of them, but losing it is worse than winning
Especially
90%.
considering the check that you write those guys.
Yeah, in the check, and even worse, add insult to injury. A&M, it was basically a lock they were getting game day, and they
Mm-hmm.
lost. They gave it to Appalachian State because they're like, well, where do we go now? Insult to injury. So, game of the year for the Aggs coming up, and it's a big one. See if they can respond. Also, Notre Dame.
Ah,
I can't believe I have the Irish at an over 8 ticket, and
me too.
I'm running out of
Me
games to
too.
play with.
Yeah.
They got to go 8-2 the rest of the season. They got North Carolina on the schedule, USC. They got Clemson on the
Clemson,
schedule. That's not looking. BYU. They play BYU.
BYU. Yeah.
That's not
Then
looking hot.
BYU's. Yeah, they're gonna have to upset some folks, or they're gonna upset me and you. So
Yeah, I
Notre
thought that was
Dame
a lock.
just
The quarterback play has just been awful.
yeah.
But Sunbelt having a day. Nebraska loses to Georgia Southern. Even Wisconsin lost to Washington State. I know it's Power 5. Washington State was supposed to be terrible.
Yeah.
I think they might be, but lost. Wisconsin loses to them. Scott Frost got fired. I mean, that was everybody saw that coming. That was
That
dumb
was
that
coming.
they
He'd
even
had
kept
to
him.
make the playoffs to stay. That was so terrible. And
Why they even kept it? Because I guess he was
quarterback
like
there.
their own kid. Anyway, it was a great Saturday of college football. This one, not a lot of just big highlight games this weekend. The biggest game I think is A&M Miami. Penn State Auburn play, but I don't think either one of them are ranked. Nebraska OU, that's kind of lost its luster. Nebraska. I don't know. Before the season, I kind of thought Nebraska was going to beat them just cause. OU, is favored by 11. I would, you never know when you fire a coach how that's going
Mm-hmm.
to go.
Right.
So
You either all of a sudden go, oh man, golly,
yeah,
look at now they're scoring, they're moving the ball. It was the coach, or they
yeah,
go, oh, they're way worse.
they're
They shouldn't have,
done. Yeah,
done.
they
Yeah.
just quit. They've given up. Also LSU Mississippi State. That's got a chance to be a pretty good game. I think. I think Mississippi State's pretty good this year.
In Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and LSU rebounded after the week 1 loss. So a couple good games to keep an eye on. Even Texas UTSA is a sneaky good one. UTSA was 12-2 last year. So that'll be an awesome. I'm interested to see how Texas responds, and they might be starting their third string quarterback. So Hudson Card hasn't practiced this week.
Oh,
Bijan Robinson hadn't practiced. He had an MRI on his shoulder. So I don't think Bijan Robinson's playing. Not sure if Hudson Card is going to be able to play. Of course, Quinn Ewers is out. So they might be going to a redshirt freshman kid he's only 2 snaps he's taken are handoffs. So interested to see the Texas but if the Texas defense is for real, they'll show up. Defense shows up every time. So that's a sneaky good one. NFL recap, Cowboys suck. I mean, that was maybe the worst offensive performance. I don't know who's worse on offense, the Dallas Cowboys or the Iowa Hawkeyes.
coin flip, man.
That was
I'm telling
bad.
you, and Dak, I feel bad for Dak. He's had the two injuries and all the hype and the pressure that comes with putting that star on your helmet, and just a freak deal. You're throwing,
Yeah.
defender's just getting his hands up, bam, you hit it, and then it happens again, and I'm just like, man, I feel bad for Dak, but you gotta. I mean, golly, before that, it wasn't like we were rolling. I
No,
mean, I
we
think we
look
have
just as
shown.
bad with him.
Yeah, Trey, they're about one injury at the wide receiver position away from calling us to have to go out there and fall over on the field. And another we have no one that can get open. I don't care if he called him the Black Kirk Cousins. You keep
Yeah.
Amari Cooper because like CD Lamb, buddy.
I'm
You
so
got to show me
disappointed.
some more. You got to show me
Exactly.
some more.
I really expected him to step right in. I really wasn't concerned about losing Cooper because I thought CeeDee Lamb was stepping right in. My brother, Casey, again, props to him.
I was going to say, I'm the other way. I said, I don't know if CD's the number one guy.
It's exactly what my brother Casey said. He said he didn't see it. He's like, I hope
I didn't
I'm
either.
wrong, but I
I
don't
think
see it.
he benefited
Guess
from
y'all are
Amari
right.
Cooper.
Yeah.
He benefited from Cooper kind of having a safety hedge that way and Gallup on the other side. I mean, you get CeeDee Lamb on your third best cornerback, okay, or even your second best cornerback. I still like CD, but like, we Schultz can get open. That's our guy that can get open. Is Dalton
Yeah.
Schultz.
And he's not a vertical
No,
threat. So I mean, he's a move the chains guy. So with Dak out, Cooper Rush did beat Minnesota last year, but this offense, it doesn't matter. I mean, it was so bad moving the football. Offensive line's not good. Not explosive at all. This day and age in football, college, NFL, you got to be explosive. Defenses have gotten so sound. You can't just move the ball on them gradually unless you're Appalachian State. Shout out. I mean, they controlled the clock and moved it on them. Outside of that, most teams, you got to score. You got to be explosive. Cowboys were not explosive. They got the Bengals at home, then the Giants on a Monday night, Washington at home, and then the Rams on the road before hosting the Eagles on a Sunday night. So if Dak comes back for the Rams or Eagles, I mean, you got it. Giants and Washington. We need those two, no matter who's playing quarterback. If you can get to, and if you lose to the Bengals, you beat the Giants and Commodores, and you go 2-2 through this stretch, and Dak gets back healthy, I think you got to take that, and you got to take it as a win.
If we come out 500, I will.
First 4 games. Yeah.
I'll be so shocked. I mean, because that means offensively we've done a 180. That means our defense has picked up the slack lacking. I mean, defense looks. I like our defense. I mean, but you can't just have those guys as story. It's the same thing with the Cowboys. You can't have your defense on the field all
Right.
those snaps all that time and expect them to keep being locked down.
And Michael Parsons,
frustrated.
he's like, you can't waste him in his prime. I know he might not even be in his prime yet, only second player, but he one-on-one, he's dominating. I mean, look at him. He had that sack. They put the backup left tackle, and that was, I mean, what's your old saying about Shaq and the boys club?
Oh yeah, it's like dropping Shaq off at the boys club, man. That's just not fair. Michael Parsons on most anybody is not fair.
One-on-one.
Much less a backup.
I mean, so we're gonna have such a talent with him and Diggs. We can't waste that as Cowboys. And this offense, I did not expect it to be this bad.
I think we got to do something. I think we got to bring in a playmaker at wide receiver. I don't know. I don't know if you trade for it, because it also kind of feels like right before we traded for Amari Cooper, it feels like, man, we just can't do anything on offense. We're kind of anemic. Oh, let's go make this big mega splash trade for Amari Cooper. But now I'm going, I mean, it's no secret. Nobody likes us in the league. So it's not like I don't think we're going to get any. And then who do you go get, right?
I think when Michael Gallup gets back, I think that helps, because then you have 2 vertical threats at least. I don't know how much it'll help, but it's got to be better than what it is now. So, but he's out another couple weeks. So
Tolbert's a healthy scratch. There's your draft pick. No, we had to put an undrafted wide receiver.
And James Washington. Every move you made at receiver this offseason has been terrible. James Washington's hurt.
Awful.
We kept Gallup instead of Cooper. Gallup's hurt. Tolbert's hurt. So we run a guy out there. I didn't really pay much attention in preseason. Houston. His name's Houston. Jimmy. I mean, he looks like he's 5'10", 140 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Guy out there in an NFL football game.
And
I mean, he was tiny,
undrafted.
and Turpin's tiny too.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
don't
wish they
really
would have
see
used
him.
him more. I would have liked to have seen
Yeah,
what
me
Turpin could
too.
have done more. And another thing is, man, I'm getting tired. I think the NFL's figured out Kellen Moore. I don't. He
I think that
doesn't.
was obvious.
Not these
Nothing
reverse and jet
creative.
sweep. Nothing's creative. And I'm sitting here going, man, we got to do something. We have to do something. But I think there's so many things that are broken. It's like, where do you start?
And I think, going to the defense, gave up 19 points to the Buccaneers. Given the field position and the amount of plays we were on the field for, because our offense couldn't do nothing, you give up 19 points to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I mean, that's a win. You'll take that every day.
I was excited. I said, dude,
If you'd
we're
have told
holding
me
the
before the
three.
game, you'd have said, "Hey, the Cowboys only give up 19 points to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers." I'm like, "Oh, we roll."
Yeah, we win the game. It's not even close.
And then I mean,
42-19.
that
Nope.
was bad offense,
Mm-hmm.
just absolute terrible.
Reminded me of the Saints game when Will Lutz beat us with 4 field goals. I just remember, I remember
Yeah,
being so sick because we were right there the whole time,
yeah, that's
and
right.
I
That
felt
was
the
it
same
was like a
way.
12. We lost 12-9. I don't even know if we got a touchdown, did we? Or 12-10.
12-10.
We
We
scored one
scored one.
touchdown.
We put
Yeah.
one in the fourth quarter, and then it was just pointless. But
Yep.
yeah, buddy, long
Could be a
Cowboys.
long season. I don't expect much against the Bengals because I bet they rebound. Joe Burrow had a rough opener, but he comes back strong.
I tell you, they better have a good blocking scheme for Parsons. Like I said,
Yeah.
our front seven, I like our defense as a whole, but
Yep.
Parsons in particular, I'm like, they
Safety. We
better.
have some good safeties.
Mm-hmm.
3 good safeties. Our corners. I love our defense. Big fan of it.
They just cannot be on the field as much as they cannot be on the field more than our offense. Otherwise, that's not. I don't
Yep.
care how good you are. That's a recipe for disaster. So
Other across the NFL, Aaron Rodgers shocked at how bad he looked and how bad the Packers looked. And Julian Edelman, of all people, had a great take. And I didn't think much of it, but I think there's a lot to it. If you notice, not many players play in the preseason anymore because there's only 3. He
mm-hmm.
said, if you look at the quarterbacks who played in the preseason, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, all 3 didn't miss a beat. Everybody else, like Dak Prescott, didn't play in the preseason. Aaron Rodgers didn't play in the preseason. Derek Carr threw a bunch of interceptions. Joe Burrow, none of those guys played in the preseason. And I think maybe he was onto something. Maybe the preseason matters. Just get it out there and get it in routine.
Yeah, play a little bit. I mean, you used to always see them. Okay, well, they'll probably, the starters may play the first 3 quarters of the first game, and then the second game maybe they play the first half, and then the third game they may play, you know, the first quarter, and then the fourth game they may play a couple series, and they're done, and then that's about it. And I know that it's easy to say, kind of sitting here, and it's not us, and it's way more of a business now than a game than it's ever been. But I'm sitting here going, guys, I think there's something to that. I think Edelman is exactly right. Like, didn't play in the preseason, man. I mean, it's one thing if you're rehabbing an injury, but if you're just a
Yeah.
healthy scratch in the preseason, I mean, you're good. Don't get me wrong. You're one of the best in the world at doing it. That's why you're a professional at it. But so are all those other guys. Like, those other guys are professionals too. And you know, Tom Brady's career was built off of, a chance. All he needed was a chance. And it took off from there. So I just think there's something to playing in the preseason, like you said. So
Yeah, I agree.
who knows?
I agree. Well, it is a long season, so I'm sure a lot of everybody will get it kind of turned around, and now the extra week. So I mean, you got 17 games. So
I really wanted Jerry. I really still want. I want Jerry to get one before he goes to that big stadium in the sky.
I would love
I
it.
want him to get one. I'd love it. I mean,
I want to experience it one time. We got experience 3 times in our childhood. Love to experience it one time in our adult. I think
I want Jerry to see it. I want Jerry to see it. That's what I
yeah,
want.
I will probably consume a lot more alcohol in my adulthood than I did in my childhood after those 3 Super Bowls. So
Yeah, I took a
party.
sip of my grandfather's natural light and I didn't like it. And he goes, "That's right. You won't like that till you get older. So don't let me catch you drinking any of it."
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, looking at the NFC East, Giants win. I like that hire. I like Dayball, however you pronounce it. I think that was a good hire by the Giants, but they come back and win. Washington, Jacksonville, I think had them on the road, so they come back and win. And of course, the Eagles. Eagles beat the Lions. So Cowboys only team in the East not to get a win. Tell you what, if you know anybody that drove all the way to Arkansas to put a Cowboys NFC East division winner ticket, 2 hour drive, 2.5 hour drive, 5 hour round trip to place that ticket, it's not looking good for them. So
No, it's not. Call them up, make fun of them because, man, what a turn of events. And
or
I
just
said it,
leave a comment on YouTube and tell us how
yeah,
stupid we are for going to
idiots.
Arkansas to place Dallas Cowboys plus 115 season division winner ticket.
And then the two teams, the Giants don't bother me at all. They still have Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
quarterback. I don't care.
No,
They lose.
actually, still the only ones that I'm worried about are the Eagles.
I
Even Washington doesn't scare me that much.
Washington bothers me because their defense. I know last year we were clicking and they had Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
Washington, I said it earlier, they're the Texas A&M of the NFL. If they ever get a competent quarterback, I think Washington could cause some problems and make some noise. It's Wentz. We all know what we've seen Wentz. Nick Foles won him a Super Bowl. He might have done it the whole season till right before the playoffs and the playoffs, but Nick Foles did that. But if Wentz ever reaches part of his potential, I hope it's not in Washington.
Carson Wentz, that's the most fascinating career I think I've ever seen in my life. He was good as a rookie. He was great as a second year guy. If he doesn't get hurt, he's probably the league MVP. And to look now how bad he is, he had 4 interceptions against the Jaguars. I mean, he is a bad football player. And he was a couple years ago the best player in the league until he got hurt in week 16, 15 or 16. It's just fascinating how you can drop off that bad.
Yeah, and you bring up you may compare him to Josh Rosen as far as interesting, but like Josh Rosen was never good. At
Not in the
least
NFL, he
Wentz was
wasn't.
no, at least Wentz was pretty good. But that's another interesting career is Josh Rosen. You're like, guy, you were a pretty high draft pick. You're
He was top
basically
10. He was a third in
yeah,
that class. That first round class, there's 5 of them. It went Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the two that worked
cream of the
out.
crop.
And I would put my money on Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen.
Yeah,
And they're the two worst.
I mean
Rosen for sure. He started like a
Rosen's auditioning. I mean, yeah, like Rosen just basically like I'll hold the clipboard for league minimum,
yeah.
which I would too. Now,
Yeah,
if
they
there's
called me today, I'd do that.
any personnel, anyone in of any NFL team personnel wise watching this, I will hold the clipboard for league minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, I'll do what Bobby Carpenter did for league minimum. If you need me to run down on kickoff and get ear hold, I can do that. That's all Bobby Carpenter did. You don't have to pay me first round money.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trey, all the way to Arkansas just to have our hopes and dreams dashed week one.
It's not looking like we're going to get a good ROI, return on investment, for that trip.
No.
But, whatever. Also got some college season win totals that I think
Yeah.
we still got a chance at. Long way to go, but we'll see. Long season, 16 games left. We're already a game behind in the division to everybody else. It's not looking promising for the Cowboys, but I will say in 2014, the Cowboys got smoked by the 49ers and went on to have a heck of a season. That was the year Dez caught it. Won a playoff game that year, won the division. So you never know. Can look terrible week one and get it turned around. Not promising with Cooper Rush taking the helm for the next 3 to 4 weeks, but see what happens. Just got to maybe the defense score a couple touchdowns this week. So we'll move on to our final segment, our pick segment. In the Gridiron Grind, I had a pretty good week. I did not have a great week on Coffee with Creta, so maybe I'll just repeat my Gridiron Grind picks on there, I guess. I'm 4-1 last week with Gridiron Grind picks, so I'm 8-3 on the season. Jimmy, you were 3-4 last week, still winning record on the season at 7-6. So I got both winning. It's early. I got 5 picks today, 3 college and 2 NFL. and I like them. I didn't really like my picks last week and went 4-1. I kind of like these. I'll start off. These aren't probably going to be that popular of picks,
Okay.
but I think they make a lot of sense. I'm going to go with Syracuse. Syracuse is minus 1.5. It opened up as a pick 'em. They're now favored by. Oh, sorry, something just popped up on my screen. Got it. Okay, Syracuse favored by 1.5 now over Purdue. Purdue has been terrible against the run. Syracuse is 2-0. They beat Louisville in that opener. Why? Because of their ability to run the football and stop the run. I think Syracuse so far, hang your hat on the run. They've been doing it. I think they're going to be good enough to beat Purdue at home. So I'm going Syracuse minus 1.5 at home.
I like it. I like it. For my first one, this wasn't in my picks. This one of our buddies texted me. He watched the show, couldn't believe that we didn't have this. And I said, you know what? The more we talk about it, I think I like it. Last week it was Oklahoma Kent State under. And this week I'm going for my first one, OU Nebraska under 66.
I like
Scott
that.
Frost is gone. Oklahoma right now thinks they're probably the best team in the Big 12. But I just don't see them. I don't see them letting Nebraska score enough to where this gets in jeopardy. I think under 66, Oklahoma, Nebraska.
And if you remember last year, it was a low scoring game. It was in Norman. OU had a high flying offense, and it was a tight game because it's an old rivalry game. And I think it was like 24-17. It was a one-score game, and it was low scoring. I can see that happen again. Nebraska, what are they? They've scored a lot of points, but you just had your play caller and head coach is gone. So I don't know how you keep that up. And OU is going to be the best team they've played all year. Oklahoma really struggled first half. I think it's a great pick. Under 66, OU Nebraska for Jimmy. I got another couple unders here. I got Nevada and Iowa, and this is one you just got to do it. It's 39 under. Iowa has scored one touchdown in 2 games against not great teams by any means. Their first opener, they scored 7 points. They got 2 safeties and a field goal is how they got to 7. Last week, their offense has not scored a touchdown. Last week, I believe they blocked a punt, and that's how they scored their touchdown. So they got beat 10-7. Their offense is just so bad. It is just non-existent. Their defense and their punter is really good. Playing Nevada, you just got to do it. I know 39 is, that's 6 touchdowns between 2 teams in a 4-quarter college football game. So hold your butts, but you just got to do it because, it's some bad offense from Iowa and good defense. So Nevada, Iowa under 39.
Interesting. I like it. I like it though. I believe in it after hearing you talk about it. So
You just got to do it. It's going to be torture.
Got to do it. My next one is Ole Miss 16 minus 16.5 against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, not very good. I think Ole Miss is going to try to put it on them, going to try to make a statement. I think Ole Miss blows them out. I don't think it's close. And
I kind of I hadn't really paid much attention to Ole Miss this year. How's Jackson Dart? How's he been?
Let me look that up for you. So,
because I figured, it was the Ole Miss had a lot of transfers. They hit the portal hard. They got the Zach Evans from TCU, Jackson Dart's quarterback from USC.
Dart is so far he's thrown for 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, thrown for 336 through 2 games, but they're scoring about 43 points a game and giving up less than a touchdown. They're giving up 6.
Yeah.
And Georgia Tech is scoring about 22, giving up 29. I just don't.
Georgia Tech's terrible. They're awful.
Yeah.
Got a season win total on them under 3.5. They're bad.
Me too. I think Ole Miss takes it.
I like it. I like it.
Touchdown plus win for Ole Miss.
Last college game for me, going back to Austin. I'll be there. Got to do a little. My daughter has a cheerleading game. I'll be leaving from there. That's in Wolf City. Heading down to Austin to watch Longhorns take on the Roadrunners. I'm a believer in my boy Jimmy, and he says Texas defense is legit. I saw it with my own eyes last week. I agree. They basically only have 3 new starters on defense. I just thought there was no way Texas is going to be better on defense. You're trying to play better defense with the same guys. Maybe the cohesiveness in the same system, but I mean, it's night and day how much faster and how much better tackling Texas defense looks. They're in, so I think the defense is going to be pretty good for Texas against UTSA. If you're good, your defense, you have a good defense, it shows up no matter who you play. UTSA is starting 2 new tackles. Both their tackles are out. They've really struggled to run the ball, and now you're replacing 2 of your offensive linemen. They do have a good quarterback who can scramble and they can throw it. And Texas might be starting redshirt freshman making his first start. And even if they start Hudson Card, I mean, we saw him with an ankle, and that thing probably felt a lot worse a day or 2 after that game, and he was able to finish it. So he's not going to be 100% healthy, even if Card does start. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a redshirt freshman making his first start. And from Austin, he's from Austin. You know, that's going to be a tough start for him. So I'm going under 60.5 UTSA in Texas.
Yeah, I like that one a lot as well. That was going to be my sprinkle pick. If you're going to sprinkle something, sprinkle it on that. So I'm with you on that. I agree. I think it's just defense going to show up. UTSA is going to play hard, but like I said, Texas, I think, has an elite defense. So my third one is LSU plus 2.5 at home against Mississippi State.
Love this bet. I almost gave it out. I love it.
I think Mississippi State is good. Like you said, 3-year starting quarterback there from Mike Leach, but it's in Baton Rouge. That place is going to be crazy.
Yep.
And I think LSU keeps it close, maybe even right out wins. I could see this being a field goal at the end. You know, I hate to bring it up, similar to the Alabama-Texas. I think a field goal to win, if anything, for Mississippi State, but I think LSU plus 2.5. I really like that one as well. Give me LSU at home
at night. Well, yeah, it's like 5 o'clock at night, but
yeah. But an underdog in Baton Rouge, I'll take that.
What does Brett Musburger always say? A home team getting points. What's better than that?
Yeah.
I'm with you, and I'm a big fan of Mississippi State this year. I think Mississippi State. I have a season win total over 6.5 with them. I think they're underrated. I think they're a good team, but you know, I think LSU bounced back and looked pretty good last week. I know it was against a lesser opponent, but they showed some guts coming back that opener against Florida State, and I think Florida State's pretty good this year. They got a tough one against Louisville Friday night. You ain't got anything going on Friday night. That's going to be a good game to watch, Florida State at Louisville. But I'm with you. I think LSU gets it done. It'll probably be a tight game, but you got to go the home team, especially LSU in that home environment. So I'm on board with you. So that's I love those picks. I'm switching to the NFL. Thursday night, I got a nugget here. Thursday night, and me and you have had a theory for years about the unders on Thursday night football coming off when you're playing on a short week. So I looked this stat up. Thursday night unders with a total over 51, so Thursday night is the Chargers Chiefs and the over-unders 54. So Thursday night unders with a total over 51 are 17, 8, and 1. That's 68% over the last, 26 games. So Thursday unders when both teams are coming on a short week. That's when both teams are on a short week. Thursday unders with a total over 54, which this one's at 54, are a perfect 7-0, going under by almost 14 points per game. So if you're a numbers guy, you're going to trust the numbers. This one's just giving you money. I think you got to take under 54 here, and it was higher. It was 56, and then I had it 54.5, but I just looked. So if you were going to get it right now, it's right at 54. So earlier today it was 54.5, but right now it's 54. I like Thursday night Chargers Chiefs under 54. It's just tough for teams bouncing back offense to get in a good rhythm on a short week.
Yep, it's the NFL, man. It's the NFL, and football's grueling as it is, much less at that level. So yeah, I like it. I think that's a great pick. For my fourth one, I went USC Fresno State under 74. It's in USC. I know that, USC's been putting up some points. They beat a powerful Rice team 66-14, and then they beat a Stanford team that the whole school could care less about football, 41-28. But Fresno State and USC both been playing pretty decent defense. I expect this one to be maybe in the 20s, maybe in the 50s total. So I think under 74, USC Fresno State.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it being in the 60s, honestly. I can see, because I think Fresno's pretty good. They got a good quarterback. I think it'll be competitive. And usually when games are competitive, you know, it's going to be a little bit of defense will be played.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be offense. This one started at 66, and people hammered it, and they got it all the way up 8 points to 74. So I think it's a good number to get it. I mean, were the odds makers? Are they, the $1 billion business? They were a touchdown off. So, I mean, people hammered it. I get why they hammered it because USC's been scoring so many points. But, I mean, 74 is a lot of points. And this, so far, the numbers show, I mean, it's been a down year for points so far.
Yeah.
It's against Power 5 and Group of 5 teams. Now, when you're playing an FCS school, everything's off the table.
Right.
But with Power 5 and Group of 5 teams, the scoring has been down through the first 2 weeks of the season. So 74 is a lot of points. So I think it's a safe bet. It's a good, safe bet. And that's the side I would take if I was going to take that. My last one I think this is a perfect time for the Steelers. Didn't look great, but they got the win against the Bengals. They're at home. Again, what's better? A home team getting points. What's better than that? I'm going the Steelers +2 at home against the Patriots. I just have no confidence. The Patriots, what are they doing on offense? They don't hire an offensive coordinator. They're doing a three-ring circus between Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia, who's a defensive guy, and Joe Judge, who's a special teams guy, ex-head coach, meathead. They're like taking turns calling plays. They looked awful against the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix that in a week? They don't have a plan on offense. They don't have really any playmakers. They're not helping Mac Jones out at all. Steelers, Mike Tomlin, I mean, that's a well-run organization. They make the playoffs how many years in a row? They're at home. You're giving me points with the Steelers at home against the Patriots, who have no clue on offense. I'll take the Steelers +2.
I like it. I don't know if I'm going to take it, but I like after listening to you talk about it, I could see it. I mean, like you said, the Patriots offensively look crazy. They look like they're lost. They don't know what to do. They're watching, it's like you watch your ex moving on and having success, and then you try a different haircut. Maybe you're wearing skinny jeans and flamboyant shirts, and it's not you. It's not you. You need to get back to what and they're lost. And so, and the Steelers play hard. They always do. They're kind of banged up. They got a couple injuries on the D line. Have to follow that, see about Hayward and Neal. But it's the Steelers, like you said, at home getting points. So
I like it. I mean, I was expecting the Steelers when I looked at the lines. I was expecting them to be a 3 to 4 point favorite, and then I'm getting 2 points. So, I mean, I could be wrong. I've been wrong once before. I said the Cowboys would three-peat in 1994, but since then I've been pretty solid. So
pretty good. I agree.
Take the Steelers.
My last one is BYU +3.5 against Oregon. I think BYU is going to be sneaky good. We're not talking playoffs, but it worries me. I'm kind of watching them because, Arkansas has to play them later in the season.
Right.
BYU, Baylor's a good football team. It took them 2 overtimes. BYU should have won the game. Had a couple opportunities there, missed field goals and stuff. So
I stayed up and watched that whole game. Yeah.
I think BYU +3.5.
You got to remember, Oregon. BYU didn't have their top 2 receivers in that game either.
Right.
Against Baylor.
So I think BYU +3.5, man. I think
here's the only thing
Oregon.
I will say about is that game. Is it in? Where's that? Is it in Oregon?
It's in Oregon.
Here's what I say about that. And this is kind of my theory. I don't want to put too much doubt because, heck, I don't know. But to me, that one kind of stinks a little bit because in the theory, my theory is if something stinks, it doesn't make sense, go the other way. There's a reason why it doesn't make sense. Oregon got blown out by Oregon. BYU just won a tough game against a ranked opponent. Why isn't I know it's on the road, but why isn't BYU favored? So I think a bunch of people might be writing Oregon off, and maybe they're not as bad as we thought they were. I mean, they do have Bo Nix, a quarterback he's hit or miss, but I don't know. That'd be my only caution there. Why is Oregon favored over BYU when BYU's ranked and just beat a ranked Baylor team who won the Big 12 last year? So that would be my only hang up, but I like it though. I mean, I would think from what I've seen, BYU is the better football team. Oregon just couldn't look any worse against Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
BYU looked pretty solid against Baylor. You would think they're the
Yeah.
better team, but I don't know. Sometimes Vegas, they're a billion-dollar business for a reason. So I don't know why they'd have Oregon favored. That would worry me a little bit. But
Yeah, that's why it's called gambling.
that's why it's
Just
called
gamble a little
gambling.
bit.
Throw your neck on the line, see what happens.
Yeah, throw it against the wall, see what sticks.
Yeah. So, all right, is that it? Is that all we got?
That's it.
Great show, Gridiron Grind, Jimmy G, Creta 3. Check us out. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Having a problem with Apple. Don't know what's going on. So our podcasts haven't been going up on Apple Podcasts. I don't have a clear answer why. Working with them, so I don't know where we stand with that. But you can catch us on YouTube. YouTube, no problem. They put it right up for us. So
Tell them I just ordered one of the new iPhones, so maybe that'll.
I think they're
Maybe
doing
they-
that to me too. My phone's getting to where it won't charge and it won't hold the charge. I think they're forcing me
Same
to
here.
get a new iPhone.
Same here. So tell them I've got one ordered. Maybe they want brand loyalty. So just tell them, hey,
Maybe so.
Jimmy G ordered one. So put our crap up on the internet. Put our crap up on the podcast platform.
So bear with us on Apple Podcasts. Hopefully, eventually we'll be on there. But for the time being, we're on YouTube, Gridiron Grind YouTube channel. Check us out. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend of football. We'll see you next week.